A young boy knows the law too well. Another man who understands that he is allowed to leave if he doesn't want to be answerable to the law. Same situation, but two different reactions. The boy crashed into a police car. Meanwhile, the man was caught in a love triangle between his mistress and his wife. One has to die. This man, who was under 18 during this interrogation, the boy had to wait a pretty long time before his interrogation began. However, there is a twist that comes with a lot of waiting.
I'm Investigator Outsmarts.
The handcuffs on the boy imply that he is under arrest and has to go through the whole procedure to get out of the police station. He will then be read his Miranda rights. Until now, this boy seems quite calm with his situation. Soon we will know the correct way to deal with police interrogation like a true mastermind.
You said you'd be willing to talk to me about why you're in handcuffs? Yes, sir. Okay. Being it is a criminal investigation, obviously you're not free to go because you have warrants for your arrest. I'm going to read your Miranda because it's very important you understand your rights. Okay? You have the right to remain silent.
The boy is clearly unbothered with his rights because he already knows the most important one.
Having these rights in mind, do you wish to talk to me now? No, sir. No, sir. You don't want to talk to me?
The boy will be persistent with his decision. His calm demeanor and confident persona tell us that he is quick-witted when it comes to stressful situations. Even the officer's annoyance won't budge him.
You can call your mom at the jail. All right. We'll get you out of here as quick as we can.
Because the cops are allowed to lie during the interrogation, chances are that he would have to admit to a bigger crime than he had done. Avoiding the police encounter as much as possible, this boy showed how easy it is to get out of a tough situation. The key is to speak less or nothing at all. This is Scott Sunford, a mechanic in the Army who is suspected of killing his wife.
Sheriff's Office. Hi, ma'am. This is Scott Sunford. I was robbed last weekend. I live at 320 North St. Hilaire. Anyways, after the robbery, I had an ADT alarm system installed, and they put it on a one-week trial period where if anything went off, nobody would respond. And today at 324, 327, and 328, I had 3 census trips, and I've been out of town with family for a funeral. My wife was home.
Okay, did somebody break into the residence?
I don't know. I've been out of town. I'm just on my way back, and I haven't been able to get a hold of the wife, so I was just hoping somebody can come meet me out there. It's probably nothing, but I would feel better.
Okay, hold on.
Scott and his wife Desiree were in an open relationship with a woman named Paige Blade. The couple had an amazing marriage from the outside. Even Scott's military deployment to Iraq did not become a problem in their relationship. But when Desiree felt uncomfortable continuing their open relationship with Paige, she didn't know it would be the death for her.
Yes.
Okay.
There's one thing that does confuse me, though.
What's that?
Generally, if you read somebody their Miranda rights, that implies that they're under arrest.
No, not always. It just means that we're conducting our investigation. I can tell you, you're not under arrest right now. Okay?
Scott asks just the right questions. He knows the law enough to understand that when an officer reads you Miranda rights, it means you are under arrest. However, the officer made it clear that Scott was going through a routine interrogation, which relaxes him a little and he gets himself ready for the bombardment of questions coming his way. The officer then inquires Scott about what happened in his house last night.
As much as I can. I mean, I can't help you too much. I wasn't there, but...
Okay. Well, I wasn't either, and I just got here literally a few minutes ago. So can you just kind of start from the beginning and tell me what happened?
Well, quite honestly,
What
you just
is your
informed me
understanding?
of something else. There was a shooting.
Right.
Okay. What can you tell me?
All I know is that we were called out to your house and that there was a body found, and that it looks like the person had been shot. So that's where I'm asking you to jump in and help me fill in the blanks as far as what led us out there.
Okay.
Notice how Scott's composed body language does not change when the officer informs him about a dead body found in his home. Why didn't he ask whether his wife was okay? Keep in mind, Scott doesn't know yet that his wife is dead. Considering how he maintains his relaxed expressions in the next few moments, it almost feels like Scott is repeating a practice speech.
Alright, let's see. You said today is now the, 8th?
It's the 8th now, yes.
Okay.
Just after midnight.
On the 6th at 10 in the morning was my Aunt Joy's funeral service in Pasco, or Kennewick at the City Church. So that morning, I guess that'd be Saturday, I left the house at probably 8:30.
Okay.
And that was the last time I was there before the last time I was in my house. After I left there, I went down to the Tri-Cities. I went to the service, and from that point on, I was with my dad and grandpa, and I don't know, the service probably ran on until about 2 or so, maybe less. I called Des after the graveside portion and the luncheon portion. I was just kind of trying to get away from the old guys for a minute and get up and walk around.
Look at Scott smiling like he is having a regular chit-chat with his long-lost friend. A calm and measured tone without a hint of nervousness in his voice while he speaks is a sign that he is guilty. Now, how do we make sure whether he is guilty or not? Had Scott been nervous or shaking, it would have been another sign of guilt. So how do we tell in this particular instance that Scott is behaving like he planned his wife's murder? The main giveaway is Scott's body language. Even if Scott dealt with stress poorly and had a nervous breakdown in front of the officer, the guilt would give itself away when an anxious suspect does not maintain eye contact, goes into unnecessary detail, and tries to portray themselves in good light. In this case, Scott is relaxed and composed. However, he dives into small details of the past few days, which is completely unnecessary given that his wife just died. A husband concerned for his dead wife would want an immediate investigation. Here, Scott just wants to talk about his day.
So I went outside and I gave her a call and sat there talking on the phone for a while. And I told her that my Aunt Mary and Frank were having a dinner out at their place at 6:30, so I was going to go out there. And I was going to be a little later than expected, because the idea was I run up, go to the funeral, hugs, handshakes, turn around, go home. And, I had got some family from the coast from all around that I hadn't seen in quite some time, and a lot of that side of the family's kind of yuppies that I don't get along too well with. I'm blue collar, military mechanic, don't really hang out with the sharp dress crowd too much.
Yeah.
So luckily the ones that I liked made it up there, and we got together for dinner, and it ran a bit late. It was probably 11 or so, and I told her, it's kind of rainy, it's windy, I'm tired as hell, long day, and they want to do a breakfast get together in the morning. I'm going to stay here for the night. So I did, and went out there for breakfast, and we were around for a while, and I don't know, probably around noonish or so we left that, and went back to my dad's house with him and my grandpa, and got together some old guitars that were still at his house, and some sanders and stuff, because I got a kitchen table and some chairs for her not too long ago, but the chairs needed to get refinished. And of course, new homeowners, we don't have too much stuff around there for stuff like that yet. So I hit up my dad, and he gave me a few old sanders that he had, and he's a woodworker. So got those loaded up in the car, got the guitars in there and everything, and let's see. Oh, I guess it was probably about 5:30 by the time we finally got out of my dad's house.
5:30 this evening?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a quick trip.
and he lives down
He's
in
on
the Tri-Cities area?
Yeah, he's in Kennewick on 312 East First Place.
Notice how Scott laughs during the conversation and looks at the officer. It's like he is looking for affirmation from the interrogator. So far, he has been smart enough to not indicate obvious signs of guilt or nervousness. Scott understands the law and doesn't disclose information that would harm him in any way. So, if the officers decide to arrest him, it would require a great deal of time to investigate the crime.
My dad and my grandpa and I had been joking around about how, it's strange, Des hasn't called yet, she hasn't been bugging me yet today, because she's a real stickler on the times. She schedules tight.
Yeah. I
adapt and overcome and kind of go spontaneous. So we'd been joking about that. And let's see. all it's showing is the last phone call to her at 9:11 p.m. But
That's the last time you tried to call her?
yeah, I need them. But all along the drive, I just kept calling her randomly, trying to get a hold of her. And I sent her a text even at one point, why aren't you answering? And just wasn't getting anything from her. And it was kind of freaking me out. Because, well, after the robbery last weekend, Deputy Wuchek had said that it looked like they had been interrupted or spooked or something and that they may be back. So the next day we had a ADT system installed. And it was all kind of starting to build up and driving me a little nuts.
Previously that month, Scott and Desiree installed an alarm system after a burglary at their house. The night before this investigation, Scott noticed that the alarm went off. He claims to assume that Desiree might have accidentally tampered with it. However, he confirmed he didn't call to check on Desiree when this happened.
And when I checked the phone and I saw that both doors had tripped within close time frame of each other, when I looked at it, it said front door open closed like 3:24, and then back door open closed 3:27, open closed 3:28. So in my head, I put that together as she goes in the front door, out the back door, and then, obviously shuts the doors behind her, and then comes back in the back door and shuts it. So she should be home. So why isn't she answering me? She should be in the house. Because that's in, out, in, So it was really driving me nuts, and I had to call him. And I called in and I talked to the dispatcher.
Scott keeps insisting on the fact that he is concerned for Desiree, yet he justifies not calling for help several times. Considering the recent break-in, if Scott knew that Desiree was home but not picking up his calls since last night, this is when a call for help is made in such situations. However, Scott puts off calling 911 and justifies his bizarre reasoning for not doing so.
I headed to the house and I pulled down the driveway. And I went down the driveway to the left and I fired up my spotlight and I pointed it at the back door. I noticed my charger's there, so she must be home. And I put the light up on the back door and I noticed that the board that I had screwed up there from the previous break-in, the bottom quarter of the board had been broke off. And you could see the window was all messed up again. So immediately I got back on the phone with dispatch and I told them, my house has been broken into again. My wife is not responding. She should be home, and she's not talking to me. I need somebody here now. And I stayed there. I kept waiting. I couldn't go in. I didn't know what the hell to do. So I backed the car up a ways and got on the phone. And I called my friend Brian that lives out in Glebe. He and I worked together. We deployed together. He's in a little motorcycle organization, man, Combat Veterans United. Mm-hmm. Do the fundraisers for all the veterans' families. And I called him up and asked him, hey, you awake? You dressed? Will you come over? I think I need you. And he said, yeah, I'm in my sweats. Give me about 45 minutes. I'll be there. So I couldn't go in there. So I just waited. And after a little while longer, it was driving me nuts again. So I got on the phone and I called up my dad. I told him, I don't know what the hell to do. Somebody's broke in. Des should be in there, and she's not answering me. And if she's...
Scott remains emotionless as he tells a loving husband's nightmare. His story does not make sense when he says he stood there in the driveway ready to shoot at the robber. A trained military man like Scott is perfectly capable of handling a situation like this. Scott loses eye contact with the officer as if he is hiding something.
I stayed at my car, had the spotlight on the back door still, had the door open, standing in the door, using it for cover, in case he spooks him out the rear. And Had my weapon ready, but not drawn.
Now the officer will ask Scott to name the weapons he owns. If any of the bullets used to kill Desiree matches one of Scott's guns, it would be a weird coincidence or a pre-planned murder. But why would Scott murder his beloved wife and ruin an apparently peaceful marriage? What he is asked next is the answer to our question.
Then you stayed at your dad's in Kennewick?
No, I actually stayed with a friend, but let's see.
What's the friend's name?
Oh, her name's Paige.
Why did Scott forget his mistress's name? In front of the officer, Scott calls her a friend. But even if she was a friend, you don't struggle to recall their names, especially the ones that let you crash at their place for the night. It seems like Scott was trying to give the officer a false name, but he quickly considered the pros and cons of lying and decided that he would tell the officer the truth. It is bizarre how Scott's mind works, even in a stressful situation like this.
Probably about 10 that I got back together at Mary's for the breakfast.
10 a.m. on Sunday morning.
Yeah. And everybody else left out of there at about the same time. We all left slightly after them.
Where's Paige live?
She's up in Moses Lake, or Warden actually, sorry.
What's Paige's last name?
Blades.
Do you have a phone number for her?
I'm sure I do.
Scott intentionally misses the detail where he and Desiree were romantically involved with Paige.
How far is Warden from the Tri-Cities?
It's about an hour.
About an hour?
Yeah.
Each way?
It's damn near as long as coming here.
Okay.
But I had to go up there because of the guitars that I had in the trunk. She's a mutual friend of ours for a while. Oh, it's my dad. Or no, that's the mother-in-law. At 10:30, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I got two of my friends now that I've gotten started into music. One of my friends, I got started on bass, and she used to play acoustics, and she was wanting to get back into it a little bit, and so after collecting the guitars up at my dad's house, had to go show her one I thought she'd like, so I got this little Kent. It's probably half as heavy as a normal guitar is. It's just a real slim body, narrow fretboard, quick action, just great beginner guitar.
So when did you drive to Warden?
Probably about 11.
11 o'clock.
Yeah, it was
last
late.
night. And what time do you think you arrived at Paige's house?
I'd say 12:30-ish. She had already went and laid down, so I had to go wake her butt up.
Once again, Scott justifies his visit to Paige and laughs it off at the same time. He makes it look like he had a friendly encounter with Paige at almost midnight. Scott laughs and looks at the officer as if wishing to get some hint of how the officer perceives his actions.
Was it just a platonic friendship, or did you have a sexual relationship with Paige?
I shouldn't go there because it's kind of rude, but, Des didn't want me to say anything to anybody, but she kind of had mixed feelings, and if I'll do anything, but that's one thing I can't provide for her. So at one point, her and Paige had a little thing going for a while there, a little experiment.
Okay, so it was Desiree and Paige who had the sexual relationship?
Yeah.
But not you and Paige? Or sometimes,
we all did.
Sometimes you and Paige too?
Honestly, we all did.
Okay. So it sounds like you and Desiree had a pretty open relationship as long as the communication
Generally,
lines
no.
were... No?
Generally, no. Just with her.
Just with her. There was a special relationship with Paige?
Yeah.
Scott claims that Desiree was unbothered by Scott's visit to Paige. However, it was a lie. He wanted to continue the open relationship despite Desiree's concerns. While Scott was a prime suspect in this case, it wasn't until the police received a tip of Paige's pregnancy that they began to see a solid reason behind the murder. Turns out, the anonymous tip was given by Paige herself, who came forward with another name that the police never heard before, Marty Grimser, also Paige's best friend, admitted to killing Desiree. Marty was arrested and Desiree's belongings were found at his workplace. This was a story of a complicated love triangle, where Marty was in love with Paige and killed Desiree for her so she could be with her love, Scott. To watch more of these videos, subscribe to our channel and get the latest information about true crime.